Are we online? Yeah. Yeah, we are. Okay. So officially, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ana Willa Batista, partner and head of marketing here at Greenplat. It's a great pleasure welcoming you to our first webinar of this year and with an international presence. Today, we brought in a group of experts to talk about an incredible subject, the World Economic Forum and the technologies that can change the world. Green Platform has been recognized by the World Economic Forum as pioneer of the third generation of blockchain, the very few systems in the world that applies blockchain technology to meet the supply chain and other aspects unrelated to finance. In addition, we are leading 2 international coalitions of the World Economic Forum to solve problems in environment tracking, CO2 emissions and connected production network, and increasing end-to-end visibility in the supply chain. So let's talk about a little bit about it here with this more than special guest. And first, let's meet them. So first, I'll introduce Chicko Sousa. He is mechanical engineer, specialist in ESG, waste management, and circular economy. For 21 years in the waste market, since 2011, he has developed startups and projects in the sustainability area, such as Greenplat, a technology company whose mission is to accelerate a cleaner production with a software as a service specialized in the waste value chain, creating management, delivering transparency, and being a technology pioneer. Mariana Vasconcelos graduated in business administration from the Federal University of Itajubá. Mariana, with only 23 years old, found a way to integrate the technology area to agriculture. And she founded AgroSmart with partners Rafael Pisi and Thales Nicoletti. AgroSmart is a company that monitors plantations to assist farmers and better decision making. And last but not least, James Rogers. Dr. James Rogers is the founder and CEO of Apeel Sciences, a company that fights the global food waste crisis. The World Economic Forum recently recognized Dr. Rogers as a young global leader. In 2019, Fortune magazine named him as one of his 40 under 40. And under his leadership, Apeel Sciences was honored as one of Fast Company's most innovative companies and world-changing ideas. I'm very glad and honored to mediate you guys here. I have gone a step further, but in this chat today, we'll talk about the disruptive technologies that are emerging each year and can transform the world for the better, such as the technology of Greenplat, AgroSmart, and Apeel Science. Well, I'd like to remind you that at the end, we will open for questions. So please send your questions in the chat and our organization will direct these questions for us here to answer you in the end. So let's start. I'm going to start by calling Chicko, who is the CEO and founder of Greenplat, to talk about the experience of being part of the World Economic Forum. Chicko, as the founder of a company whose premise is to change the world by accelerating cleaner production, do you believe that the World Economic Forum is a catalyst for this? And do you believe that we need more organizations encouraging these disruptive technologies? How do you see that?
Well, first of all, it's amazing to be here with fellow friends like James and Mariana. Mariana is my little sister, and James is my buddy, right? And it's amazing to see you again, guys. Unfortunately, we cannot be together, we cannot drink together, we cannot carry Mariana in our shoulders, right? But it's amazing that we're talking about in the World Economic Forum, how much we learn with people. It's more than technology. The WF for us is a kind of link of opportunities to be beside of some genius persons that are not only know what they are doing today, but know what they are going to doing for the future of the world. And is not only about ideas, but actions. And this ecosystem that can make us be with the same level of voice with senators, presidents, CEOs of huge brands in the world, it's amazing. Because it's in a place that they can listen to innovators. And could be a small startup like us from Green Plat, or a unicorn startup like Apeel, okay? Or a disruptive startup like AgroSmart, and the ideas of Marina that brings in her ideas, in the reality, her knowledge, because she is daughter for a farmer. And he saw everything during her childhood and applied technology to solve these issues. So it's amazing that we can have contact with someone that have maybe all the contacts and the structure like a US startup company that maybe is a better than Brazil environment for invest in ideas, okay? But also with the struggling startups in Brazil that I have, or that ones also that have the same issues in Africa, and understand also the Asia perspective is one word. The World Economic Forum is a place that we don't have any kind of borders, for we show our technology, for we show our abilities and how we want to change the world in a sustainable production in our case, or in a sustainable agriculture in the Mariana case, or to end food waste in the James action. So, and it's amazing also that we can combine these technologies because it's the entire chain of production. We have in the plant-based areas that Mariana take cares, the manufacturing areas that Green Plat take cares, and also we have the food distribution and also the consumption of goods that James Rogers takes care in his ecosystem. That is amazing, this kind of connections that we face it during the World Economic Forum. I'm not the same person that I was 3 years ago after I start to understand that ecosystem. Maybe in the first year is quite like, oh, it's amazing, it's different. We don't understand the importance about that environment. But after we go for 1, 2, 3 meetings, you can understand this environment, this ecosystem, and maybe take action inside them. Maybe I think James and Mariana also want to have their point of views of this case. James?
Yeah, Chicko, first of all, it's great to be here and great to see you and Mariana. It feels like just yesterday we were together at one of these events that you're describing. Yeah, I completely agree. At least for me, my experience, growing up in the Midwest in Michigan was, there were the people on TV, and then there was me, and there was my family, and there was everyone else. And the experience with WEF was the first meeting, kind of looking around and going, those are the people that are normally seeing on TV, and they're saying that they need help with some of these questions that we've been thinking about. And that, at least for me, was one of those, like you said, you're a different person, completely just perspective changing and empowering to think that the people that I used to kind of look at on TV as, oh, they've got it figured out. Like, glad we got people that have this figured out. And then you're in a room with them and they're saying, we don't have this figured out. We heard you're working on a solution. And you're kind of like, at first it's a little unsettling because you're like, wait a minute. But then it flips to be empowering. And I totally agree with you that then you look around at your peers and you see the incredible work that people are doing and recognize that, like I think you said that really well, without borders, and how ideas can build off of one another. And you start to feel connected into something powerful. And so I totally resonated with what you shared, and it similarly for me has been there's like a pre experience and a post experience, and I feel grateful to have had that kind of perspective shift.
So, Mariana, I think that is your time to share with us your ideas about this.
Very unfair, no? Because I'm the last one, so I cannot repeat everything you just said. Not just like in the classroom and everyone answers first and you were left with nothing to say. No, I'm kidding. But
you should be used to it with the V as the last name, you know? They do alphabetical.
Totally. I am used to it, no worries. No, I totally agree with the guys. I think like having access to that network is very powerful, and I believe in the need that we have to work together to change the world. Like no one can do anything alone. So I believe in general in ecosystem and building those kinds of networks where you can combine people with mindsets that are alike and all go together for the same the same goal. And I feel hope. Like I think that's very important what they said. Like you get in contact with people that are on charge, that are running, like our institutions, the governments, the private institutions, and so on. And they are all open to listen. And I think like that's a place where everyone is vulnerable and where everyone is actually open to listen and to see what is the opinion, what is the solutions out there that could help us to solve the major humanity challenge.
Great, Mariana. So let's take you as you finalized this first round of questions. So tell us a little bit more about AgroSmart and its role in this change the world thing, its role, what AgroSmart does. So we would like to understand better about the company now. And also, if you would like to share your story before that, how you got there, I think it's also very inspiring for all of us.
Okay, good. We can start from there then. Well, I'm daughter of farmers. I'm from the south of Minas Gerais here in Brazil. And I grew up very closely to the daily challenges in the field and how to make decisions, where they would always rely on their intuition and what neighbors are doing. And my parents were always looking for a better life for me. So I had no interest in staying in farming. Like I just didn't find it sexy enough, right? So I went to the city, I went to study business, and I started working with technology because I have always been passionate and I wanted to do something that was global. Like I didn't want to do something local. I do have a bakery though, that like I love and I'm very happy to work with it, but I wanted more, right? And I started working with Internet of Things and AI for industries, helping them to improve efficiency in oil and gas and environmental discontamination. And then at some point we thought like, why we are not doing this for agriculture? That not only I know like from my roots, but also for Brazil, it's so important from our economy. And in Brazil, it's very hard to work in tech because we're not known by tech. So no one respects tech coming from Brazil, but everyone respects Brazilian agriculture because we are responsible for feeding the world and everyone needs us to feed the world. So I thought like there's a chance there because we today have an agriculture that is too much based in commodities, on like capturing value and increasing opportunities for the agriculture market and to be recognized abroad. So we founded AgroSmart 6 years ago, more or less, with the first goal for helping farmers to shift from intuition to data. But connectivity was a big issue. Even today, 76% of Brazilian farmers don't have internet. So like it was really hard to get data and to get access to farmers. So we worked on this IoT solution to collect data from sensors that was independent from pre-existing infrastructure. And with the data, we pretty soon realized it was not enough to stop there because our farmers and our agronomists are not educated to process all of that data. So we need to go one step further. So we started building algorithms. So we have like irrigation recommendation models. We have the most precise Brazilian weather forecast. We have disease forecasting models, and like we're literally supporting the day-to-day decisions in the field. And with the time, we went pivoting from that because we saw that if we wanted to impact, we needed to engage the supply chain. That's where I think what we all have in common here is like the farmer is a hostage in the end of the whole supply chain, and he follows whatever is happening in the supply chain. So we needed to bring together the supply chain to actually make change. So we work today from the input companies in their R&D and helping them to understand how their products will work and how they will adapt to the climate change. We work with food companies within their supply chain with where they source their food from, to help them to adapt and make the farmers more resilient, and then to report on water footprint, carbon footprint, up to banks, where we help them to mitigate risk and create more accessible financial products. So today, like, we are operating in 9 countries. We cover more than 1 million hectares in 33 different crops. We were very happy to be recognized as a social business. So besides being awarded by our growth and so on, we always put first the impact, and we think that's what is driving our strategy to grow. And we're really proud for being Brazilian, for coming out of nowhere. So I like even James, even in the US, that he also had like this feeling, okay, I'm just a normal person. And I'm a normal person. I studied in somewhere not that important. I come from a small town, and we are very happy to be able today to be a protagonist in the digital transformation of agriculture worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah, it's and we as Brazilians are very proud of you and the entrepreneurs who are there in the World Economic Forum, but not only, right? Are being recognized all around the world.
But one thing also, Mariana, that is amazing about in your history, that is not only about be a young entrepreneur that is changing the ecosystem of agriculture in Brazil, but is a woman in the field, and is a woman in the tech, and is a woman in entrepreneur. So it's amazing what you are doing with all this girl power that you are doing here in Brazil. Because recently, I saw a magazine that you was one of the young Brazilian personalities to follow. So what do you think about this?
I'm very happy because yes, both industries are very masculine, the agriculture and technology. So when I started, I was the only one in tech in Brazil. Before AgroSmart, I had another company, like I mentioned, and I used to be the only girl from Brazil going to South by Southwest or like other festivals and so on. And in agriculture, that was the same. And it continues to be today, unfortunately. The movement of women in ag is growing a lot. So more women are becoming farmers, more women, they are working in the supply chain, and that's very powerful. And I feel supported by them. And I'm glad to be an inspiration to them. But still in ag tech, there is still very few. So when people come to me like, who are the other Latinas that are working in ag tech? And there's like Victoria from Paraguay, and that's it. Like, and it's very hard to find women taking that lead. So I think I'm privileged to have the access and the education and the network to get there. And I hope to empower other women to do the same.
Yeah, for sure. There are the ladies from Manege Bem.
They are younger. Yes,
yeah,
that's true.
They're young startup. I think they're also in this journey. Thank you, Mariana. James, your time. So, well, James is welcoming us directly from California, United States, and it's an honor to have you here. You can start by telling us a little bit about your story and the purpose of Apeel Science, a unicorn company, right, of the World Economic Forum. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I just love what Mariana just shared, and I hope that Chicko shares more about his background, because I think he has one of the most amazing backgrounds of anyone I've ever met. And for me, it what Mariana just shared just shows that these things can come from anywhere, and it's I'd actually be curious to hear from Chicko and Mariana, what they thought the difference maker was, because I think a lot of people think about these kinds of issues, but there's just less people that do something about it. And so for me, I always get really curious about that first thing that someone did to take a step in that direction, to move it from, hey, someone should do something about this, to I'm that person. I'm gonna do something about that. And Mariana, you shared a little bit, but I bet there was like a couple moments in there that you'd talk about it. And Chicko, I just love the way that you you jumped in to what you're building. I have to say that my path was a little different in that I didn't know what I wanted to work on, but it was really important to me that I found something that I was really that I really felt was worth working on. And so I took the really long route, and that was I stayed in school for a really long time, and I did my undergraduate work, and then I went to graduate school for 6.5 years to do my PhD. And I was interested in what I was studying, but the whole time I was kind of just trying to pay attention to what was going on and what did I really want to work on? Like what would be something that I could just feel really good about grabbing and not feel like I was doing something because someone else thought it was important, or it was, easier to get a job or easy to get a job there. It was something that, even if I tried and failed, I'd be really happy that I learned about that thing. And so for me, I went to graduate school, and it sounds so silly, but I was studying my graduate degree, and I was listening to an article about how we were going to add a couple more billion people to the planet, but already 1 in 9 people were going hungry. And at least for me, it wasn't the first time that I heard that people were going hungry. I think I grew up knowing that, and I grew up knowing there was war. I grew up knowing there was cancer. I grew up knowing that people were going hungry, but that was one of the things that the people on the TV were going to kind of figure out. And so I remember listening to this, and maybe it would have washed over me one more time. But at this moment, I was driving near these lush green fields in California of lettuce. And basically as far as I could see in every direction was lettuce, and it was just growing out of the ground. And I unlike Mariana, didn't come from a farming family. So I oversimplified it in my head and thought, I don't think I know why people are going hungry. I think I know they are. I've been told that anyways, but I don't actually know why. Because if I look at that field, that looks like a lot of food. That looks like that we could feed a lot of people, and I just got curious. I got really curious about why people were going hungry when, at least from my perspective, very naive perspective, we had this magic called seeds, and we put them into the ground, and they absorbed water and they absorbed sunlight, and they made stuff that we could eat. And I thought, okay, well, we've got that part's magic. What's missing? Why aren't people able to eat? And what I found out was that it all came down to, or what I landed on was, it came down to, we didn't have enough time. We were growing more than enough food to feed everybody, but it didn't grow at the right places at the right time, which meant we had to move it to them. And when you don't have enough time, it goes bad before you can get it to someone, in which case it's kind of a tragedy, because you had this valuable thing and you had someone that wanted it and they weren't able to get it because they were missing time. And so I got obsessed with that. I got really obsessed with that. And well, how do you give food more time? And I started thinking about food that had time and food that didn't have time. And food that had time was like an orange or a lemon. That I couldn't imagine that you couldn't get a lemon from where it was grown to someone who wanted it before it went bad. But I could really easily imagine a strawberry that didn't have time not being able to make it to someone, and what that would mean. And so I started really pondering that. Well, why does the lemon have time and why does the strawberry not have time? And fortunately, it was a very unsophisticated experiment. It was, well, a lemon has time, and an orange has time, and a grapefruit has time, and a mandarin has time, but a strawberry doesn't have time, a blueberry doesn't have time, a cucumber doesn't have time. And it was kind of like, well, maybe there's something about the peel the citrus that's special, that gives it time relative to these other things. And I'll spare all the details, but I went down that rabbit hole and found out that indeed there's something special about the peel of things like lemons and oranges that give them the ability to have time that things like strawberries and cucumbers don't have. And so it was an idea on a napkin. I talked to hundreds of investors, and they said, hey, that's great, but we don't give money to ideas on a napkin. So I was trying to figure out how to get started. I wrote a grant, fortunately, to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they thought it was interesting enough to write a check. And I hired a woman named Jenny that was in my graduate school program with me, and we set up a workbench in the garage, and we started figuring out how we could make a peel out of plants that we could apply to their surface that would give them more time to mimic a lemon or an orange or something like that. And that was almost 10 years ago. So I don't regret a second of it. There's been challenges and difficulties along the way, but the experiences, I mean, the fact that I got to meet Mariana and Chicko, and the way that that's influenced my life, and I can just think of hundreds of thousands of these little experiences, and little tributaries gone down and gone back to the main thing, and just the learnings that have happened about understanding the global food system. I wouldn't change it for anything. So anyways, that's just a little bit about how this whole thing got started for me.
Wow, that's a great story. Amazing. And how did it happen that you became a unicorn then? Because I know people are curious about that. But if you don't want to answer, we can.
It's like there's this quote I really like, and it's it happens slowly and then all at once. And I think, Mariana, I see Chicko nodding. You resonate with this as an entrepreneur starting from an idea on a napkin, and you just kind of go, that's why I like to go back to, like, what was that first step that you took? Because I remember for me, the first actual step that I took was, I remember having this idea of, we could learn from the lemon and teach it to the strawberry, but I didn't have any money to do anything about it. It was just an idea. And I was in graduate school at the time, and I remember thinking, like, what could I do to make this into something to get started? And what I ended up doing was I ended up deciding that I would come up with a name for the company. So at least it had a name. I didn't have a product or anything, but at least it had a name. And so I did this exercise. I stayed home one night and did this exercise. I read this article about a company that named companies, and I said, I'll follow the exercise they talked about, and ended up with the name Apeel. And now 10 years later, we're still called Apeel, but that was the first thing that I did. And so, first you named the company, and then, you made a website, and then you started getting some emails from some people that were interested. And it's just kind of like, you just keep moving the goalpost a little bit, and you get there and you go, now what? And you move it a little bit further, and you go, now what? And you move it a little bit further, and you now what? And so, it happens slowly all at once. You just keep setting. First it was the invention of the technology, and then it was figuring out how to turn it into a product, and then it was figuring out, the business model, and then it was figuring out how to sell it, and then it was figuring out how to operationalize around it, and now it's around, how do you optimize, and how do you make your customers more successful with this new tool. So it just keeps moving. And the financing or the unicorn thing is always funny to me, because it's not the reason that you do it. It just eventually, at a certain point when you're working with people,
it's a consequence, and
the scale is big enough, and you add up the value of what you're working on, it reaches that threshold, and then you get that little tag. But I look at that as like a lagging indicator of where you're going, because the funny thing is, by the time you've announced that or talked about it, you're like you're like, you've already gone, okay, great. Like we reached that milestone, you're on to the next thing. And then, it's announced or it's in the press and you're like, oh yeah, we should still be excited about that, So anyways, I just feel like it's just this like slow. It's just like keep moving the goalpost farther and farther and farther. And then one day you wake up and someone asks you a question like, how did you get to here? And you go, oh my God, that's a really long story. I don't think we have enough time to cover it all because it's 10 years worth of work.
In a nutshell, you have an idea, take the first step, then take the second step, then take the third step, and it's every day is a new day. Continue, be persistent, and go. Yeah. So
I think so.
Yeah, great.
The only thing that I've maybe over the last 10 years have kind of it's come more clear for me is there's like this art. I think there's this art, there's this part of this which is there's part of it which is an art, and I don't know if it'll ever get figured out and turned into a science. And I think the art part of it is figuring out where to set the goal, because if you set the goal too close, people might know, your team might know what to do, but they don't really know why they're doing it. And if people don't know why they're doing something, it's not, my perspective is it's just not gonna work, because people don't want to just do something. They don't just want to know what to do. They want to know why they're doing it. But the flip side is, if you put the goal too far away, or it doesn't feel possible, and it actually feels like a delusion. It feels like this is a crazy person that I'm talking to. That feels impossibly far away, and that is demotivating too. So the art is, even if you maybe are just obsessed with this and you've gone really far, figuring out like what's the, like what puts the vision far enough away that people know why we're working on this, why this is important, and what to do, but not so far away that it seems delusional. And that's my eloquent way of describing the journey, or the like trying to figure out what it is to be the CEO of one of these startup companies.
Yeah. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Thank you. We have questions from the chat. So one is from Dimitri, and his question is, could you indicate organizations or opportunities for those who want to work as volunteers in projects with such technologies, especially IoT or TI or AI or this kind of technologies?
So is the question about like, how do you get, if you don't have any experience in something, how do you get experience?
Yeah, maybe I would guess that if you don't have experience, or maybe you have, but you are out of market, you want to collaborate, you want to be in. So how you start?
I'd love to hear Chicko talk about, how he got into his business.
Well, how to explain? I got inside my business inside a funeral, so it's quite strange as well. I was with the father of ex-girlfriend. I worked for Volvo during 5 years. I live in Sweden and things like that. And I was putting my packaging in the trash during the funeral. I was with a chimney gun, and and he told, "This is future." And I, what? No, this is future. Trash. This was 2001. And I'm a mechanical engineer, work with engines for trucks, a lot of technology and things like that. And I, what? Yeah, this is going to be the future. It's going to be the recycling. And maybe during several years, I was a delusional guy, because when I started to work with him and building the recycling plants, and I start to talk to people that are, oh, what are you doing? I work with trash. The people, what? With what you work? I work with recycling. You pick materials in the streets? No, I don't do this. I receive these materials and I recycle. The people, oh, okay. But nowadays, if you're going to tell someone that I work with environment, that I work with recycling, everyone is going to tell you, oh, that's the dream of my life. So how do things change in 20 years? 20 years is not so much. It's not an entire life for most part of the people. And how fast this is going nowadays. But when you want to start, and I think that is that James one that I tell for the others is, I had the same condition like Dimitri. Okay, I'm a mechanic engineer. I know about engines. I don't know anything about recycling. So what I did, I went to Europe, and I went to Italy and Milan, and I knocked the door of the municipality. I want to work with trash. And why I want to work with trash? To learn. And I drove during 3 months a truck collecting waste in Milan. And after that, I went to Austria for Erema, that was one of the biggest companies that produce recycling machines in the world. And I want to learn that. And I stayed 1 month there projecting recycling machines for free. And after that, I went to Spain. And I knocked the door de Plásticos Reciclados Andaluces. And I went to work like the extruder. And I spent 3 months there, work like the extruder guy, recycling plastics. And okay, I know the physical part of things, but I don't have the technical knowledge about this. So I went to Germany, and I went to Augsburg. And there I started to work in the university, worked 2 months in the labs, knowing about how to make the test of the material. So this is one thing for Brazilians that we're not shame. We don't have shame. So we go there and make fun, tell some jokes, tell them I want to work for free, and we start to learn about this, okay? And it was a lot of knowledge, because it was the knowledge that I learned in the work floor. It's not the knowledge that I learned in the top of the chain of the discussion. The stuff of the chain we are learning today. It was the same because when we want to change something, and when we're talking about disruption is more than technology, it's a movement. If you have a technology that you create, normally you didn't create by yourself. Use other technologies and integrate all of this. But when you integrate all of these technologies, maybe the others are going to think, this is moral, this is immoral, this maybe is something that is legal or illegal. So when you make this kind of technology that include things, and you change the status quo of one market, and they start to have questions about is moral or immoral, if it's legal or illegal, and you need now regulations to put this technology in that direction, this is the disruption. But if you're going to tell for someone that I want to change this regulation, maybe it's the idea of James, maybe this is too far. How you, a crazy one with long hair, is going to tell me that you're going to change the regulation for an entire city with 10.5 million inhabitants like São Paulo? And you change it. Now we are going to change once more. Okay, and now we're going to deploy this in more 644 municipalities in the country now in this year. So it's crazy when one thing is you should believe in yourself first, but don't believe too much, because maybe you have changes in this way. And you have to listen. Maybe you are not going to like, but you have to breathe, listen, and okay, I'm going to make this change now. Okay, you have a way, but he's not A to B point. Maybe you have several steps, some step backs, and go forward. So it's how to be resilient. Okay, so if you want to start something that you don't, maybe you have the knowledge, maybe you have the idea, maybe only you have the ideal to go forward. Okay, you first should be resilient. Knock the doors, ask to work, ask to learn. I'm going to give my workforce for your knowledge, and maybe you should start in this way. I don't know if Mariana have the same kind of idea, or maybe could share with us another perspective for that.
No, I totally agree. And what I really like about these conversations, how they show that everything is real. You know, like sometimes we idealize entrepreneurs and we just think they live a perfect life and a straight route to success. And that's totally not like that. And like there's different paths to get there, right? To begin. There's different things that can trigger you. Sometimes what you start doing is not what you end up doing. So you have to be open to change and restart. I think it's very important to accept failure. I think we are always failing. I at least failed a lot of times, and there was many times in AgroSmart story that I thought that's it, it's over. Like I'm not going to come back from these. Like I don't know where to go. But you just keep pushing and pushing, and things happen. And even maybe because people think like she's too crazy, so I have to give it a credit, and I have to do something because she won't quit and she won't take no for an answer, and I don't take no for an answer. And I think that's nice, like, because everyone here has a different perspective and a different story. And it's not like this perfect route or it never starts beautiful. And like Chicko said, like he volunteered, no, like he did things for free. And I think we all did. We always start, at least when I started, there was no salary, there was nothing. I was doing something else. And I just started prototyping and seeing where it could go until I shifted and decided to do it for real. And there was never money, like in hardware, like just like as in anything related to science, it's expensive. It's really hard to start something like that. So you have not to be ashamed to ask money and try the grants and go after investors so you can do your dream. And if it fails, you just learn something, then you can start again.
Amazing.
Exactly that. Don't be afraid of failure, right?
Yeah.
Because we just learn from that.
I love one of the things that Mariana just said there, and I think it's really important, is you have to, or at least for me, it was the weirdest thing to learn to ask for money.
Mm-hmm.
Totally, because it's a shaming. We are teaching that it is it's a weakness. Or something.
Exactly. And you think, and so you think, well, I've got to do this all myself. And the one of the big changes for me happened when I was talking to other entrepreneurs, kind of like we're doing right now. And I was talking about, needing, we had some grant money, but we needed money to be able to do more work because we didn't have it figured out. And one of the entrepreneurs looked at me and said, yeah, James, if you had it figured out, you wouldn't need the money. And I went, yeah, that's exactly right. And so I think for, young entrepreneurs, there's another thing to think about as well, which is, and someone shared with me that I think said the same thing and put it in greater context, which is, and think back about, how Mariana got into this and how Chicko got into this and how I got into this. And it's this notion that labor, so us, we need capital exactly the same way that capital needs labor. Mm-hmm. Often the capital, they're not going to go drive around picking up garbage and figure out how that system works. They're not going to go knock on the door of tens of, of thousands of farms and figure out how they could introduce technology into a space that had never used this type of technology before. That's the people here, and that's the people that are watching this. You're the labor, and capital needs you. And just, I think, at least for me, that was really empowering to go through that recognition that there was a lot of hard work that needed to get done, and capital was looking for people who are willing to do that hard work.
I think that you, Jamie, and Mariana are talking about that something that is special when you are starting these companies, that they don't invest in our technology because we already don't have it, okay, in the beginning, okay? They are investing in the entrepreneur, in the person, and how they can go further with this idea, and if they're going to be able to deliver that. And it's amazing that all of us, we got tech backgrounds, okay? And in some part and some time, we need to start to sell. And in the other part, we are always selling our companies, because when you're going to talk with some VCs, that's everything that you should know. And we not only need to sell our company today, but in 5 years. So what's going to be our companies in 5 years? Is that we are selling? And how we're going to deliver, or how we're going to figure out to deliver it? And what do you need? What kind of support that we need? And normally when we need support, we need people, and people better than us that knows the other parts of this stuff that we don't have knowledge. Maybe we have idea, but are not our skills. And how we're going to do that? Okay, so I think that build this ecosystem that everyone's going to believe in your idea, and also believe not only in the idea, but your proposal. Okay, that is going to change, because we need people, we need good people, and that is incredibly difficult to have it.
And talking about needing people, I would say for the person who asks where they can volunteer, there is this website called Opportunities for Youth. So they have like many volunteering programs in the UN or stuff. But really, just find an early stage startup. They are poor and don't have money to pay you. So like, go help someone build their tech, because they really need it.
Great message. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we received more questions. One is from Andrea. She said she loved the initiative of this webinar, and she's asking the question, how did you end up involved with this World Economic Forum thing?
Until now, I don't know. I just received an email that I thought that like this kind of mails that I received from Mutombo in Africa, that is sending some money here, that I have something for you, and I was quite scared. And deny, guys, because our touch point is Simon Woon. So what's Simon? Simon Woon. Who the hell is Simon Woon? That should be a fake email. I didn't believe on that. Okay, so, and he was insistent to have a touch point, and he told, no, we can maybe make a video call. And I think, okay, if I don't like it, I close it. Okay, and you should start on that. So until now, I really don't know in my part. In the idea of James and Mariana, maybe they have maybe a more Cartesian way that happened. But in my way, until now, I thought that was spam in my email. James?
I even hate to admit this. I was so blinders on with the business, Chicko, probably like you. I didn't even know what the World Economic Forum was. And someone, I think we got an email saying, you've been nominated, or you're invited to apply, or something to that effect. And I don't think I thought that they wanted me to send them money, but I do remember thinking, yeah, but I've got all these 100 other things to do, and I think I can't remember how it came, but it somehow got resurfaced, and I remember looking at it and going, oh, like this is actually pretty interesting. I want to know more about this, and I think we completed an application, and then it was like you've been.
I never made the application, James. So that was crazy. It was Simon directly that wanted to talk with me. So what was pre-exchange? Okay, and Mariana, maybe you are smarter than us, because you are.
No, I knew what the World Economic was. Yes. I was not super engaged. I have some friends that were part of the Global Shapers. There is another community that the WEF has, but I didn't know the Technology Pioneers thing existed. So like everyone I knew was engaged by the Global Shapers, which I also came to know very late when I went to the Singularity program. So like I didn't know it existed before. So I knew it was a community of impact, but I didn't really understand what they did, no? So I also got the email from their team saying I was nominated and so on. And then I made a call with Fulvia in my case and told her what we did. And there was like information to fill and what we are doing. So it was nice. Like, I think I already had some kind of experience with these institutions. We have like a close relation with the IDB and some other institutions there. So I'm used to get around and talk to these people. And I think they were one of the people that apparently said to me later that they nominated me and this kind of things. So I didn't know what they do, but it also came as a surprise because I didn't think we would be at the level of something like that. And especially because of the other companies like James being a unicorn, like all the other companies, they're very well developed. So I was like, okay, I'm quite here at the stage, and I'm glad that they come. I still think though, and that's a criticism I make to the program, the diversity is very low. Like, I still think there is work to be done there in terms of ethnicity and gender and everything else. But they found me, so I think that's a beginning.
Just a touch point here. I love Simon One. Okay.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's amazing guy.
You're gonna send him some money next time you get an email.
I love him. No, he's amazing guy. So it was crazy because I think, like James, I didn't heard in Brazil it's not normal for us have the real idea about the World Economic Forum. Maybe for us was just a G20 meeting that happens once a year in Davos, and had some kind of strikes during this week. Okay, it was the most maybe idea that I got from the World Economic Forum. It is a shame because the way
there's so many initiatives,
the way that they run, the way that they connect all these players that have the same voice like a president, or Mariana have a higher voice than a president. I remember Mariana. Okay. So this is great because they stopped listening. I was quite scared in one day that Al Gore was sitting beside me, and he looked at me. Oh, you are the garbage boy. And oh fuck, he knows about. He don't know my name, but he knows what I'm doing. So it is great when I have this kind of contact, and also maybe always we are thinking. Why we are here? Maybe it's too much for us. Maybe are people better than us for us. Why
that's called imposter syndrome, which is also something that entrepreneurs should pay attention.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Well, I will ask each one of you to give us a final message. So let's start with Mariana now, please. Your final message.
Well, I think I'm grateful for having the opportunity of getting into the network and also to make friends, because I think that's even more important than anything we do in business, is to find people that you can rely on. So like when I called Chicko and said, look, I broke my feet and I cannot walk. Will you take me to the WEF Forum in Africa and you will carry me around? And he said, yes. So like, that's the kind of thing that really matters in life, that like you have friends that can carry you around so you don't miss out opportunities. And that's very important. So I'm really grateful. And I just wanted to say, like, to every entrepreneur out there, is like, we don't come from anywhere special. And if we did, anyone can do it. And it's also not a guarantee that we are successful forever. We have to reinvent ourselves all the time so we continue to grow.
Amazing, Mari.
Excellent. James, please.
Yeah, I love that message from Mariana. Just that I remember sitting in the shoes of probably many of the folks that are watching this right now, and thinking that it felt really far away. And it's so much closer than you think. And it's just a choice. It's just a deliberate choice to work on something that you really care about. And if you find something you really care about and you just, put one foot in front of the other and just, keep going, and maybe it's one step forward and 2 steps back, and then 5 steps forward and then 4 steps back. And you just, you just find something that is meaningful to you, that you feel like at the end of the day, even if, you fail doing something that you think is really important. I think that that to me is like it's the only way that I would want to live life. So if that resonates with you, then I'd say just find a way to get started. It could be anything. It could be really simple, and just take that first step. And I will bet you will not regret the journey.
Amazing.
Yeah, great. Thank you for your message, James. Now, Chicko Sousa, please, your final message for us.
Well, first of all, I think that I miss you guys. I miss our chats, our ideas, proposals, and all of these. Also, the same way that I miss my team, because everyone at home since more than 1 year now. Okay, so are scary times, and maybe during this period the people should be afraid to innovate. Maybe you should afraid to risking something new, because anyone have the idea we're going to have in front. But if you believe, if you have something that you have sure that could change the world, go with this afraid sensation in some way, because during this period we're going to learn a lot. I learned a lot during this path. I learned a lot with the people that I get in touch. I learned a lot just in a cough talk, okay? And was amazing that these small chats, these small talks that I had in this WF experience changed maybe a lot of our perspectives about work, about business, about startups, and about that we can be more than believers. We can deliver. And that's amazing that we are able to do that. So I hope that everyone could stay safe, that we can pass for this situation. US is going to be this first, then Brazil. Okay, you already have more than 30% of the population vaccinated. But okay, we're going to pass through of this, and we are changing the world in an amazing way inside our homes. Anyone here stopped to work? Anyone here stopped delivering? Anyone here stopped to create jobs and opportunities and assistance? And maybe is that the world needs new kind of business. Maybe everything that has happened today with us is a kind of a signal from the earth for us, and we should understand the signals and understand, okay, how we're going to make a difference, how we're going to make better, and how we're going to make faster, because we don't have more time. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Guys, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are reaching to the end of this edition. Thank you very much for your presence. There were more than 90 viewers who passed through our webinar today. Soon we will make the video of this edition available here on YouTube channel. So stay tuned that in the next few days you receive an email with the link in case you want to review this great debate. If you want to contact Greenplat or any of the participants here, access the description here on YouTube. And thank you once again. Thank you very much. We see each other in the next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, folks. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Be safe.
Stop it.